Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the CDL podcast channel. In this episode today, as you guys can see by the screen, we have got bracket predictions coming for you. Brock and I are both going to predict our brackets. So far, I think, points wise, I might be beating Brock, but Brock has picked the major winner correct in both ones, so he pretty much automatically wins. If you guys enjoy this one, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. If you're on the audio platforms, drop a follow, drop a 5-star review. We appreciate all the support as always. We really just wanted to save this episode to just, do bracket predictions, get those out for you guys. We may talk about some of the matches from the previous weekend when we get to a team, if we wanted to mention anything from their match this weekend, but just going to pretty much reserve all this time to deep dive into the bracket and make our predictions. So yeah, like I said, if you guys enjoy this one, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube, and let's just jump right into it. Brock, how you doing today?
Oh, doing pretty good. Some matches this weekend where we're interesting to say the least, but I'm so ready for the major at this point.
Yeah, ready to see some land. Unfortunately, the last time we'll see a crowd at a LAN tournament until you and I are in attendance at Champs. We're officially going to Champs. Everything is all booked. We're ready to head down to Texas. Long trip, basically across the entire U.S. vertically for us. We're leaving from the northern U.S. going all the way down south.
Yep, super excited for that.
Yeah, very excited. That'll be my third Champs, your second Champs. So we'll be going to back-to-back years. I went to BO4 and then last year, and now this year will be my third year, second Champs, and hopefully we can keep the streak going and just keep going every year.
You went to a good year in BO4, man. That game was so good, and it was just so fun.
The Champs was insane. 100T made a crazy run from losers round one. OpTic was in winners final on Sunday, which everybody knows, even if you're not an OpTic fan, the venue is just more lively.
Yep.
When OpTic is in it, even if you're not an OpTic fan, like you could be I feel like every like fan's perfect scenario is like, let's say you're a Faze fan, you want to play OpTic in the final because, at least then the final is electric. Like it's a shame that it's only like so electric when OpTic's in it, but that's just kind of the reality of the CDL is when OpTic's in it, the tournament is just more exciting live because there's a lot more buzz in the crowd.
Yep, fully agree with that.
So let's just jump into this one, Brock. We're gonna go ahead and make predictions. Gonna let you do your predictions first. Unfortunately, the CDL website once again does not have the bracket uploaded, but I did a little deep dive into some Photoshop today, able to just copy and paste pictures of the teams. We'll just move forward in the bracket. Not going to have map counts on there like we would if we were doing the official pick'em bracket, but going to have Brock deep dive into each match where he thinks it's going to go. I think this major is interesting, Brock, because when you're looking at the bracket here, we can just talk about maybe a couple of the points from this weekend. When you look at the bracket here, Miami finds themselves in the 8 seed yet again.
Yep.
With a brutal matchup against Faze. They were able to take a win over LAG. Super disappointing showing from LAG this weekend. They were in that winner go home situation against Miami, and they just got absolutely not even close. 3-0 dominated off the map, which was sad because, to be honest with you, I'd rather see LAG in the winners bracket. I still think they present more of a threat than Miami. I expect Miami to drop to 0-15 most likely on LAN.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't see a world the way they get a map against Faze to this point.
Yeah, I don't want to reveal too many of our predictions, but yeah, that's how that matchup shakes out. And then in that matchup right below it, unfortunately for Thieves, it's probably, would you say, the best matchup of the first round? Although I will say there's a sleeper matchup, I think, that we haven't talked about yet. But that Thieves Subliners one is probably the match to watch of the first round.
I like that match, between those two teams.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good one. That's for sure. Unfortunately for Thieves though, you find yourselves as a top 4 seed at this major. You're looking to, oh my god, thankfully, finally we can play one of the other bottom 8 teams, and you end up matching up against the one underperforming top 4 team in terms of record, which is New York Subliners. Obviously, probably of the top 4 teams, the team you would want to play.
Yep.
I would say they're the worst, but still, you'd rather be playing Surge or Carolina, who's up here in winners, or Miami, as opposed to having to play Subliners. If any of them could have fallen into the 5 seed except Subliners, you would have loved it because you'd get to play a much easier matchup. Instead, you're left playing a top 4 team still, even though you earned winners again. So a tough draw for Thieves there.
Yeah, it is. That's how it goes sometimes, though.
Yeah, I mean, and they're looking to get out of a slump too, because they've had a few majors now where I mean, last major, remember they were in winners bracket, and they actually like remember in that winners round 1 they played Faze, and they had a real chance to upset Faze there.
Yeah.
They really, I remember they were up 1-0, and then they like blew a map 2 on high rise. I remember them blowing like a 5-3 lead, where they could have gone up 2-0, and then they ended up getting 3-0, and then they ended up going down and losing to LAG and finishing in last. Like Thieves had a tough run of it, and it's tough for them to see that they're drawing subliners here.
Yeah.
And then in the next match, Brock, we've got Toronto versus Seattle. Quite an interesting matchup there as well, because Seattle has looked better as of late, but you would expect Toronto to probably steamroll this. I don't know. There are more intriguing matches, I would say, in this round 1, in my opinion, than the most part, because when you go on to the next one, Brock, it's OpTic, it's Carolina. OpTic, second best team in the game right now, should roll over them, but Clay, has had success in the past. Against OpTic on LAN, it's an interesting matchup. Fellow, these are veteran players, Tej, that have had success against OpTic in the past.
Yeah, and they usually up their game on LAN, all those players. On the Royal Ravens.
Absolutely. And then obviously in losers bracket, maybe a couple surprises. I would say some people potentially predicted like teams like Minnesota and Vegas, especially Vegas, to be up in the winners side of things. I mean, Vegas for a while there were our clear cut, if not 5th best team, 6th best team, kind of juggling with Thieves there for quite some time until the purge change. We expected them to continue to play well, but not the case. Not the case at all. And they're down there in losers brackets. We've got an exciting bracket. Overall, I'm really excited to dive into all these matchups, Brock. Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting weekend. And we're going to see, Brock, something big is on the line for you. You could go 3 tournaments in a row predicting the winner correct.
I could. I'm trying to see if I can, cook something up and get it right again.
I mean, I'll be interested to see where you go. I don't want you to reveal anything to me right now. We're going to have you go first. But this is one of the more heavily favored majors we've had in quite some time. I mean, I feel like almost everybody believes Faze is going to win.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see if you go away from that. I don't want you to reveal anything. I won't reveal anything if I'm going to go away from that. But I will say, in terms of Call of Duty, I always have this saying. It's how I got that random, I predicted the top 4, right, in MW19 at Champs when it was nobody had London making the top 4. And I actually had them in the top 4 in the right spot coming out of losers. Because I always had this philosophy, and it didn't happen last major. And last major was the one time I said I didn't think it was going to happen. But usually who you believe are your top 4 don't end up being the top 4 at a tournament in past Call of Duties. And usually the best team that's so heavily favored, seems like a good amount of the time they get upset just because, I don't know, it's they can be so heavy favorites, but Call of Duty is so random that you never know. One little off series and it can ruin a weekend for a team that's a heavy favorite in Faze.
Yep. Day to day, as they say for Call of Duty.
And I will say though, the top 4 theory, where it's your actual top 4 teams come into the tournament never actually end up being top 4. This game might be a little bit of an anomaly because this is the most lopsided top 4 we can ever remember.
Yeah, I can remember. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember a time where we've had a top 4. Usually you have your best team is maybe holding the spot for a month, or it juggles here or there between 2 teams. Then your 3 and 4 teams are kind of switching out, where this has been wire to wire so far. We haven't even really questioned if another team will enter the top 4. We've juggled between 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, so on, but we have not even questioned if anybody else will enter the top 4. We've juggled within the top 4 about who's the best, but it's about it.
Yep.
All right, Brock, let's jump into it. You ready to make your predictions? Go 3 for 3 on winners?
I'm ready. I'm ready for this.
All right, so the first match is Miami Heretics versus Atlanta Faze. You can say your map counts as you go. They just won't be on the screen for the viewers.
Okay.
But boy, Brock, you think Miami's able to come out and pull off an upset? I will say they look slightly better, I guess you could say, with Real. Still not some world beater team, and they just keep finding themselves into the 8th seed and into playing the hottest team. Because first major, they're playing OpTic or whoever, and now they end up playing they played OpTic last major, and OpTic was very hot coming into the tournament. Now they're playing Faze, the best team in the game coming into the tournament. So a tough draw here for Miami.
One thing about Miami, at least they get to the winners every time.
It's true. They're winning enough online matches to get some points and make it to winners. That is very true.
But here I will be taking Faze in a good old fashioned 3-0.
Yeah, not surprising there to say the least.
Yep.
I think pretty much everybody's going to be picking Faze here. If you're a person that picks Miami and they win, your bracket's probably going to be one of the highest rated of the weekend. That's for sure.
My mind makes the run and wins it all. Can't wait.
If they did that, I think 0 people on the CDL website except their family members would pick that correctly if their family members picked a bracket. Because
literally, and the coach.
Think about it. They would go from winning 0 maps on land to winning an event.
Yep.
Probably, I would assume. Yeah, I can't think of a single other Spanish player that's won an international major too. They'd be the first ones, unless I'm missing someone.
I don't think anyone has.
Yeah. All right. So you got Faze 3-0. I feel like a pretty common pick there. Where are you going with the next one, Brock? Probably, like we said, I guess I'm interested to hear your opinion on it. Do you think this is the biggest toss-up series of the first round, or do you lean somewhere else? To me, this is probably the biggest toss-up series, the biggest, upset potential of any of the top 4 teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm gonna pick LA Thieves to upset the subline, even though Thieves are higher seeded.
Yeah, it sounds funny. Like technically, I guess it is an upset because they're not a top 4 team, but Thieves are the higher seed.
Yeah, the Thieves have been playing pretty good for the most part. Here and there some hiccups along the way, but they've been pretty good, pretty icy for the most part in Game 5. So I'm gonna go Game 5 for the Thieves here. Upset the subliners since the subliners are a little shaky at the moment.
Are you worried about them after their series this past weekend? I mean, that series against Toronto, they should have 3-0 Toronto. Like,
yeah,
they blow the map 1. They're up like 230 to 160. They blow that. The search, they're up 5-1, and it finished 6-4. Like, it got very tight at the end. And then the control, they get a last round defense. They chow off the point for no reason on 8 control and invasion. Lose that. Just then they end up losing a map 4. Like, they trolled maps 1 and 3. They had a huge lead on hardpoint that you can never blow as a top team, and then they almost blow a 5-1 lead in search. It gets a little bit hairy, and then they just absolutely choke a last round invasion defense in the map 3. They should have 3-0 Toronto. Like, I guess there's 2 ways you could look at it, Brock. You could look at it as like, well, they had the big leads on a really good team like Toronto, and I expect a team like this to be able to close those out in the future. Or you could look at it as they got no ice and they're blowing these leads. I don't know. Where are you on New York right now?
New York, I don't know. Whenever I watch them, it just seems like something is totally off compared to last year. And they all have the gun skill, but they all just can't put it together at the same time. And they like to blow leads and play like more individually.
I feel like when things clicked for them last year too, like they found a great consistency.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like they definitely had their inconsistencies. They had their win, and I think they went from win to dead last last year from major 1 to 2.
Yeah, I believe so.
But like I feel like they haven't been able to find that consistency like this year, where like last year after like they bottomed out in major 2, they found a lot more consistency and they were like a very good team. They just haven't been able to find that this year, and it's concerning because the talent is there. This team can win events. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. We'll talk about New York later when you talk about their upcoming losers bracket matchup. And the next one, we've got Toronto. We've got Surge. A better matchup than we would have thought just a few weeks ago. I mean, the Surge are certainly a more competitive team since inserting 04 into the lineup. Abezy has looked to pick it up a little bit. Overall, Hook has had some stinker series, but also has looked decent at times. Overall, the team does look significantly better than they had post Major 1 with the Illy roster change. You think they're able to pull off an upset here, or you think Toronto kind of just runs through them? Or is it a close series? I don't really know.
I think Toronto wins, but I do think a 3-1, and I think Surge is going to win the search.
Okay.
But I do think the hardpoint control will be close. Yeah. Just kind of ices up, I feel like, in the end.
I feel like Toronto just right now isn't necessarily like a powerhouse respawn team like we saw in Major 1. Like they were dominating in hardpoint, and they're not like they still win hardpoints and they're still a good respawn team, but they don't dominate
Yeah.
like they were. I don't know. Things are a little bit shaky for them right now, and it's a little bit hard to put your finger on. I mean, I guess you could point it towards like Envoy and Insight. Insight hasn't been nearly as consistent as he was in that dominant Major 1 performance where he was like incredible best Maniar in the game, arguably. And Envoy since that last major has just, I mean, he didn't even like, he's had some better series online, but he still has not been the same Envoy we're used to, even post Major 2 into the online Major 3 qualifiers.
Yeah, it's been more like Hexy.
Yeah, dropping the 0.7s, but maybe not making as much impact on the map because it's been rough. And this is weird because it's not the Envoy we're used to.
Yeah, definitely weird. But, I still do think, they have Scrappy, Phoenix, both good enough that it can prevail versus Surge.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it'll be enough to get past Surge. I guess it'll be interesting to see where they go in the next round, though. I think it'll be very interesting.
Man,
See, if they can take it and beat teams like OpTic, Faze, New York, those kind of teams.
Yeah.
Next matchup, Brock. Got an interesting one. Clay and the boys in Carolina against OpTic, Texas. Carolina has looked overall better on LAN this year than online. They showed flashes this stage online, and then Clay left to go back to Texas, and it kind of fell apart. But they did just enough to make it to winner's bracket as the 7th seed playing OpTic, Texas.
Man, they finally got into winners and have to play good team in OpTic, who don't usually lose to these bottom teams at all.
Yeah, especially not this year.
Yeah, not this year. Man. I do I'm gonna go game 5. I'm gonna call it game 5.
I like the game 5 call.
Playing the boys, they be clutching up, but game 5 comes around, OpTic clutches up in the end with a 3-2.
All right. I feel like your bracket, pretty standard for what I would expect to see. I mean, I think a lot of people are going to have the one upset being the Thieves upset. I'm kind of pissed you picked it because I was thinking of picking it. Now I'm kind of hesitant on it. We'll move you down into the losers half of the bracket now, though, Brock. I think like the way that this bracket's going to shake out, I feel like it's going to shake out very similar, if not the exact way you picked it. And I think it could get very interesting if this is the way it shakes out. I mean, Miami versus Vegas is your first matchup here. Interesting matchup because Vegas, all of us expected them to solidify themselves as a top 5 or 6 team. We thought a roster change could really help. We weren't thinking it was guaranteed, but it's been rough. And now they make another change. Johnny hasn't had much time to practice. Obviously, they're going to be getting a ton of reps in leading up to the major and can maybe add some wrinkles, maybe come as a whole new team. But they play a Miami team who I'm thinking probably is going to be 0-15 on LAN coming into the series. Probably going to get 3-0'd by Faze. But where do you think we go here? Do you think Vegas is finally able to get a win on the board and kind of break the struggles, get some points, get some CDL points here? Or you think Miami finally gets their first series win?
Man, these two teams. Well, I just hope Vegas do not play Rio Search and Destroy because they lost their Boston Breach on a 13-game losing streak.
Yeah, very true. You should just auto veto that now because you can't lose the Breach.
Yeah, they literally played
6-2 or something too, or 6-1.
Yeah, they destroyed them, and literally Boston. All they did was hit everything. Literally took no strategy.
Yeah, they have no stretch. Just run at you and hope we get the kills.
Oh man, whoever picked that map, just play something with strategy, and you guarantee a win against Boston.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man, it's a tough one. I don't know which way to lean right now.
Yeah, it should be easy. It should be like Vegas. They've been the better team for how long. We pick Vegas, we move on. But they're struggling so bad right now. It's like, what do I do here?
I'm gonna go with Vegas in a game 5 nail biter, round 11, and attach goes IC with like 10 kills.
10 kills in the map 5.
Yep, but Miami does get 2 map wins under their belt.
All right,
on LAN.
I forget. I should have made why am I moving Miami here? I should have made a point of that. I forget. Yeah, that would be their first wins. That would be their first wins. Yeah, but nonetheless, their 2 map wins don't really count for much. They're sent home with another dead last placing. That would be brutal. 3 straight dead last placings, no series wins on LAN.
That'd be tough in Miami.
Yeah, but I like the Vegas pick here. Then we've got a classic sports city matchup: Yankees, Red Sox, New York, Boston, New York Subliners versus the Boston Breach. I'm gonna say this, Brock. I don't know how you feel about them, but I think Breach, even though they're 0-7 this split, they're just horrible. I think Breach are like low key a somewhat scary matchup because they have they have like a veteran player in Priesta who is like some of the most LAN wins in CDL history.
Yep.
He's a champs winner. They have guys like Beans, like Snoopy, Pentagram at times. He's been a little shaky lately, but they have guys that are shooters. Like they have some gun skill on this team, some high skill ceiling players that like if Boston was hot on a series on LAN, they're a team that could rattle off 3 respawn wins on you. Like I'm not saying they're gonna beat New York, but I feel like they're not as pushover as you'd see. Normally you'd see an 0-7 team, you're like, we're rolling over them. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yep.
Like, I feel like you normally like we're rolling over them. Easy. We're rolling over them, no problem. But like I feel like Boston just with the hot shooters, like if Beans and Snoopy have pop off series, like there's a world where they do enough in 2 of the 3 respawns to win 2 and force a map 5. Now you have no faith in them to win a map 5 because they can't do it.
Yeah. No ice.
Well, like you never know on LAN if somebody pushes you to a map 5, you never know what can happen, no matter how bad they are at search and destroy. We're certainly not picking them majority of the time in a map 5, but I don't know. Boston's respawn is strong enough that they could force you to map 5s, and at some point you'd think it has to change where they start winning some of them.
Yeah, you think after so many reps they would actually, win a game 5. But
that's the only reason I'm saying it could get a little scarier than people might think.
yeah. But this past weekend, I was going to say before we got into it, Beans, he was shooting.
Yeah.
No wonder why his back hurts. I saw on Twitter.
Back hurts. Yeah, I saw people saying that back hurts for carrying the team, which, I mean, Beans is a shooter. That's one thing you cannot take away from him. The dude has a good shot.
Yep. But I'm going to go Subliners in a 3-1. I think Breach comes out, wins the first hard point. New York wins the search pretty handily. Take the control and just wipe them off in hard point.
All right,
Yeah,
I like it. That creates an interesting losers round 2 matchup. But first, Brock, got Seattle Surge and Minnesota Rocker squaring off. 2 teams that I feel like we're optimistic about Rocker, bringing in Gunless, but then they made the weird change with Standy that we didn't necessarily love, and they've been up and down. They've had flashes of good. They've had a lot of flashes of bad. They're down here. Surge, kind of the same way. They made the change. They've definitely improved since the old roster because it couldn't get much worse.
Yep.
But one team going to be left with a lot of questions because like both teams have shown flashes, but also a lot of bad moments. So probably loser of this, I would assume, makes a roster change for sure. And who do you think is the loser here?
I think I'm gonna go 3-1 Seattle Surge over the Rocker. For the fact that we both did not like the Standy pickup.
Yeah,
even though he hasn't been playing that bad even.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not even like a knock against Standy. Standy is a CDL caliber player. Like he's certainly a player worthy of being in the league. It's just he just was a weird fit, and it just like the only thing I can think of is if Vivid had talked to the team and like been like because he's taking a break now for like some family issues like outside the game issues, which like maybe he had talked to them and like said like he needed a break or something, and then it was like okay, that's understandable, whatever.
Yeah.
Like he was gonna leave anyway, so we picked Standy up in his place. But if it was a situation where they picked up Standy because they wanted to drop Vivid, it never made any sense. And I still think that if this team had Vivid in place of Standy, just play style wise, it would make a little more sense. It would give them a little bit more pace on the map. But they're certainly not like a team incapable of winning matches with their roster. Like they have a lot of talent, and this bottom part of the bracket, Brock, if it does shake out like this, if Carolina and Seattle fall down here, it is poised for a team to have a decently easy run because like Thieves or Subliners are going to drop into that top half of the losers bracket.
Mm-hmm.
So that's instantly the better one because they have a top 5 team dropping into the losers bracket right away. Whereas in the bottom, like Surge, Rocker, Carolina, Gorillas, they're all kind of just like bleh, like middle of the pack, not great teams. So one of them has to emerge and get a top 6, and like from there, it might be a team that's won 3 in a row and is hot, and who knows what they could do with with a chance to play for top 4 in that T6 that loses round 3.
Yep. Agree with that.
We've got your boys LAG, Brock, playing Carolina with a chance to play Surge on the line.
LAG on top, man. I'm gonna go 3-2 LAG. They seem to play a lot better on land, but I believe it's Flames' first land in the pros. So I'd like to see how he does.
Yeah, it is his first land in the pro league. Obviously played some in challengers, but we've got LAG moving on. Interesting. Our brackets are going to look very different. I'll tell you that right now.
LAG 3-2, baby. Can't let me down now.
Because LAG ain't making it out of losers round 1 on my bracket. I'll tell you that right now. One spoiler I'll do for mine. So you've got Carolina bowing out top 12. That'd be the first time for them this year. They've at least won one match at both the first 2 majors.
Yep.
But you know what? LAG has finished top 6 at both the first 2 majors, so something has to give there.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do the next round of losers, Brock. Vegas Legion versus New York, which 3, 4, 5 weeks ago would have looked like an incredible matchup, but now it's a sad Vegas team playing a pretty good New York team. I'm assuming you're going New York here.
New York 3-1. Vegas takes search if they don't play Rio.
Okay. If they don't play Rio, that's funny. All right, then it's Seattle versus LAG on the bottom. Interesting one here. Pretty much, I would say if this matchup does happen, it's kind of a toss-up.
It is. I'm gonna go with my boy LAG 3-2 again. The ice up game 5. I think Flames gonna be having a good old map 5.
So you're going with a LAG, another top 6 finish. Their third straight top 6. Well, I guess you could have them going further, but third straight minimum of a top 6 finish for LAG.
Yep.
Very interesting. I respect it, Brock. I respect it. Let's go up into the winners bracket then. You've got Atlanta Faze facing off against the LA Thieves. I think Faze is going to keep their trend rolling, just winning every match, or you think LAT is going to be able to take them on? I mean, what is the win streak for Faze at now? Just I can't really remember going back into Major 2 qualifiers, but they won straight up through winners bracket, right? They beat OpTic in winners finals and they beat them again in finals. So they won 1, 2, 3, 4 matches in a row on LAN last tournament, and then they won the 7 qualifiers.
11.
So a minimum 11, and oh no, they are at 11 because they lost their last match of qualifiers to LAG in stage 2.
Oh yeah.
So they're on an 11 win streak coming into this. The 4 LAN wins and then 7 straight online wins have a chance to make it 15 in a row if they just run through winners bracket here. You think they're able to? What?
I was gonna say, isn't the record 13?
You might be right. I can't remember. I know, like, what was it? OpTic and Vanguard had like a chance to break it when they were playing Faze or something. Or OpTic and Vanguard was like close to beating it.
Yeah, I think it's 13 by Faze in I think Cold War.
Or was it? No, I'm sorry, not OpTic and No, was it OpTic and Vanguard, or was it OpTic last year had a chance to break it?
I think OpTic last year because OpTic last year they had 2 like perfect stages.
Yeah, with Ghosty they were like winning every online match for a while there.
Yeah.
But anyways, Brock, Faze Thieves, Faze chances to break win streak records here for Faze. I mean, if they're in this match, that means they're on 12 in a row.
Yep. Faze, I just think they're so much better than all these teams, barring OpTic has a chance. I'm gonna go 3-0 Faze over Thieves.
Yeah, although the last time we saw them play on LAN, Thieves probably should have won the series 3-0.
Yep.
All right, Brock. That leaves us with what many people would probably say is the more intriguing matchup of winners round 2 in your bracket here. OpTic Texas, Toronto Ultra. What are you thinking there?
This is gonna be a good one. That's for sure. I'm gonna go. I gotta go with Texas right now. I feel like just playing I don't know, a lot better than Toronto, but enough better than Toronto Ultra at this point. I think they'll win in a 3-1. Not sure which Toronto will get the 1 from, but I think OpTic is better at this point.
Yeah, I would agree. OpTic are certainly a clear 2 in my mind, but they have looked a little more shaky in some recent matches. However, Toronto have also looked a little more shaky than we're used to seeing for them.
Yeah.
Just taking over the teams here. I'm just bad in Photoshop, so bear with me here. I'm moving all these teams over in the bracket since the CDL can't properly upload their bracket. Although I don't know, this might look nicer on the screen. You guys comment down below if you're here at this point, and you're watching the video portion. Let us know if you think this looks a little better. I think it might look a little cleaner on your screen because I'm not having to move around as much in the window when capturing it. So I think this might look a little bit cleaner on your screen overall. Just kind of copy and pasting the pictures into the bracket. So let us know in the comments if you like this new format. It's certainly something that I could do going forward in the future. So let us know down in the comments if you like this. But Brock, we're going to work on your losers bracket next. You've got some intriguing matchups. And just knowing you, I know you sicko. I know what you're going to pick. Bottom of the losers bracket. But we'll leave that one for second. First, you've got a banger matchup in the top half of the bracket. In losers round 3, it's Toronto Ultra, it's New York Subliners. One of our top 4 teams in your bracket will be going home top 6.
Ooh, that'll be a first of the year for either of these teams if it shapes out this way.
Yeah. Well, Subliners finished the top 12 in Major 1.
Oh, yeah. Never mind.
Yeah.
Forgot about Major 1.
Yeah. So long ago.
But I'm going to go with Toronto Ultra winning 3-1. Subliners get the control and they bow top 6 because, I don't know. Whenever I just watch them, it just seems something's off, and clearly since they're 3-4 this major.
There's certainly 4 of our top 4 teams, but they have upset potential. Like, if I don't even care that they went 3-4, whatever, in the split. Like, to me, still, when I look at the Subliners team, if you were to tell me they beat Thieves, wouldn't be shocked. I would be pretty shocked if they beat Faze. But like, if Subliners find themselves in the top 4 or in losers final, I'm not going to be shocked.
Yeah.
Any of these top 4 teams, if they do anything, I guess I will be pretty surprised if Faze isn't in the final. That would surprise me a lot. But any of these top 4 teams, if any of them make the final to play Faze, I wouldn't be surprised. If Faze is in it, then I would be surprised.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, Brock, you sicko. I know what you're thinking here. You got LA Thieves, LAG. It's a battle of LA, and we know what typically happens in this matchup. No matter who the better team is, LAG owns LAT. You think that continues here? LAG break. They have a top 6 curse right now. I mean, Major 1 top 6, Major 2 top 6. Really not expected to get top 6 at either major going into it. They were looked at as one of the bottom teams. Funny enough, I would say this is the most optimistic the general fan base has been about LAG probably this entire season. I mean, I feel like with Flames, people are like, with Assault, it was like, this team's terrible. I feel like with Flames, people are like, they could beat some teams. Like, they're better.
Yep.
You think they're able to take out LAT here and make a top 4 run?
I think so. I think LAG wins this in the Game 5. Round 11, they beat the Thieves and make it go into top 4 for the first time in about, it seems, since they're probably winning in Vanguard.
If this is your first time tuning into the podcast, Brock is our resident LAG stan. He went an entire year last year basically picking LAG to upset, as long as they weren't playing like Faze or OpTic. For the most part, he was just picking them to upset. And of course, if you watched MW2, that really didn't happen. LAG lost every match. Yep. But then every time Brock would switch off, that would be like the one random match they'd win. So he just basically started picking LAG every time. He owns an LAG jersey. He was I remember you seeing one other guy at Champs, and Champs was full last year. We're talking a lot of people. I remember you seeing one other guy, and you guys locked eyes and said something about LAG. You were like the only person in the venue wearing an LAG jersey.
I was. That one dude, me and him got a special connection there.
Yeah. Now, granted, you actually don't pick LAG in tournaments that often. Like, you maybe pick them to win a match or two, but this is the first time in a long time I can remember you picking them doing anything really past like top 8 or even top 6.
Yeah. Well, I've been wanting them to switch out Assault for these last 2 majors.
I mean, this is the best team. Sadly, this is the best team they've had all year, and they're starting in losers.
Yep. But I do think, they will get it done.
I can't hate. With the path you have them going on, like, people are going to see LAG top 4 and be like, how is that even possible? Like, how do you have them there? But with the path they're going on, I don't think anybody could argue with you that it's like crazy. Like, could they beat Carolina? Absolutely. Could they beat Seattle Surge? Absolutely. Those are 2, middle of the pack teams, not great. Could they beat LAT? A little more of a stretch because LAT is probably our 5th best team, but LAG owns them and always seems to beat them. And so like you can't say it's too much of a stretch for LAG to get top 6. They've done it twice this year with a worse roster. And then they always beat LAT. So certainly a possibility. I don't mind where you're going here. But then Brock, Toronto Ultra, LAG. I got to assume you're going to end the road for LAG here.
LAG, yeah, not on top. I'm picking Ultra 3-0. Sorry, LAG. Time to go home. We came too far in the tournament.
Okay, I like it. That leaves Atlanta versus OpTic. But shout out to LAG if this happens. Top 4. Making a Sunday for LAG would be incredible. I mean, if they make it to Sunday, I think we're all LAG fans at that point. Like, if any of the non-top 4 teams make it to Sunday, I think, like, in general, the community, for the most part, besides, like, OpTic fans, are just, like, cheering for that bottom 4 team just for fun. I mean, like, I know when we were at Vanguard Major 2, once LAG and, like, it was, like, a weird Sunday because, like, LAG and, like, Boston.
Boston.
I forget the last team. It was Boston and
was
Faze
it London?
No, I think London got bounced early. It was Boston and Faze in winners final, I believe.
Yes.
And I know, like, I think LAG took out Florida and Dave Patty for top 4. I think they knocked them out top 6. You can probably look that up on the side here in a second after you make this next pick, the Vanguard Major 2 bracket. But Brock, who you got in the winners final? Atlanta versus OpTic.
Oh, the good old tale of the series. Faze versus OpTic. I gotta think it's gonna go Faze's way since they kind of had him this year for the most part. But we're gonna go game 5 around 11 because that's what I personally want to see. I'm sure everyone else wants to see, but I do think Faze edges it out in the end.
All right, you've got Atlanta Faze in the final. I mean, shoot, if OpTic. If this happens to OpTic and they lose, and let's say you have them getting double beat again in 2 series, so I mean, at this point you just got to try everything new because Faze owns you. I mean, Faze already owns them this year, but if they get beat twice again on LAN, it's looking rough out here. I guess maybe they're saving all their juice for one champs win.
It might be. I just it might be have to go back to like Dashy going crazy against Faze because that's what happened in MW. Like Dashy kept just dropping numbers against Faze.
When they played in this stage, Dashy had a decent series, so who knows? Maybe.
Yeah.
That drops OpTic down to play Ultra, Brock. OpTic Ultra. You think OpTic moves forward and creates a rematch of our last major finals, or do you think Ultra goes ahead, beats OpTic, and creates a rematch of our Major 1 finals? So either way, according to you, we're gonna have a rematch of a finals.
Agreed. I do think OpTic will regain and they will beat Ultra. Not handily, every match will be close, but I do think it'll be 3-1, and Ultra bows out top 3.
All right.
For the rematch.
Ultra bows out, which creates a rematch. OpTic Faze, Brock, to OpTic finally get the monkey off their back? They finally beat their boogeyman in Atlanta Faze? Or does Atlanta win back-to-back events and really establish a potential thought of, hey, we're gonna rattle off Major 3, potentially Major 4, potentially into a champs win?
Oh man, it's gonna be hopefully a good series than last time. I'm gonna go. I want to go game 7. Pretty sure I picked the game 7 last time. It didn't happen. We're going to game 7. We're going to game 7 this time, and I do think OpTic does come short again. Unfortunately, but I think Faze is so much better at this point from what we've seen. It's just hard to pick against them.
All right, just put Faze above the championship bracket there just to signify who Brock has going there. So Brock picks Faze to win it all. I feel like not a shocking bracket. So if you're out there, get your screenshot of Brock's bracket. I'm about to just clear it out here in a second to create mine. Get your screenshots of Brock's bracket. See if he predicts a perfect one. Brock, you went with the consensus, the favorite, and you're going to go 3 for 3. I feel like, your major picks before, like Toronto, obviously, like in hindsight, after Major 1, they looked like the clear best team, but they weren't like a consensus pick for everyone. People were picking Faze, people were picking OpTic, people were picking subliners. Like they were not a consensus. when you pick them. And then, a lot of people had a consensus Ultra to go back to back in Major 2. And you picked Faze to do it. They were able to come out and do it. So we'll see if you're able to go 3 for 3. I believe I got the winner wrong. I think I went Faze and then Ultra maybe to win. Faze, OpTic, I can't remember. But I don't believe I got either winner right. I've had good brackets, and then I just get it wrong right at the end.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I like your bracket. I will say, as chalk as this year has been, we are definitely going to have some things different because you're going to have a team that makes Sunday that I'm going to have not winning a match.
Yep.
So that's interesting. Gonna quick clear the bracket here, and then go ahead and make my predictions. Very excited to do these. Predictions are always one of my favorites, and we went for a while. I kind of discussed a lot of my thoughts as Brock was making his picks as well. So I might go through my bracket just a little bit quicker here, just because a lot more discussion on the teams already, but. We've got Atlanta Faze. We got Miami Heretics, Brock. Not much to talk about here. I mean, do I say anything else besides Atlanta 3-0?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's an Atlanta 3-0. They're moving on. If of any series that could potentially happen in this entire tournament, Faze losing to Miami would shock me more than anything.
That would be very shocking.
And Brock, you kind of pissed me off by picking LAT. I really, really want to pick them. They've just been so shaky on LAN this year with whatever iteration of the roster. Now, I know this is the first iteration of the roster playing with Joe Thieves as well as obviously Nasty, Ghosty, and the crew. This is the first iteration of this roster being on LAN. Obviously, they bowed out top 12 with Afro. I really like this LAT team. However, I think when it gets onto LAN, I'm going to trust New York's search a little bit more and just their overall experience. I think this is going to go map 5.
Mm-hmm.
Partially because you picked Thieves, I'm going to go New York, I think. But I will say openly, you influenced my bracket because I was really leaning towards picking the Thieves upset because I didn't think you were going to.
Yep, I agree. Thieves on top, baby.
So I'm going New York.
To me, it's a toss-up, like you said. Either depends who comes out better on the certain day.
I feel like on LAN I'm going to trust New York's S&D a little more, which is why I lean towards them.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a tough one. It's a toss-up to me. But the next series isn't so much a toss-up. It's Toronto Ultra. It's Seattle Surge. I'm going to go ahead and say Ultra are going to win this one 3-1. Toronto hasn't looked that good in Surge. I think that Seattle's going to take the search off them, but Toronto's going to win 3 respawns against them. But I think there could be some close respawns. Like, there is a slight upset potential in here, more than you would expect in a Surge versus Ultra series.
Yep.
Just copying the Surge one over here. Then that leaves us with our last matchup of winners round 1. It's OpTic. It's Carolina. I actually think this might go map 5, Brock.
This would be a good map if Clay and the boys actually are true to their get better on LAN.
However, I'm going to take OpTic to win it. I just think they're going to be too much for the side of Carolina, but there is more upset potential than people might think here because people are like OpTic's top 2. They handle business against the bottom teams, but Carolina is a scary team. They improve on LAN. Clayster loves to play OpTic, has beat them plenty in the past on LAN. I like OpTic to win, but I think this one is going to go map 5. I think it's going to be like a 6-4, 6-3 OpTic win in map 5.
I like it.
Drops Carolina down into our losers bracket. Gonna go ahead and pick my losers bracket here now. I'm so sad I have subliners winning in winners round 1, but Brock basically made me do it. I just didn't want to follow his winners round 1. I'm too stubborn to do it. I'm gonna follow you in your losers round 1, the top matchup though, Brock. I think Vegas are gonna take out Miami. I really want to say they're gonna 3-0 them, so we can say Miami's 0-18.
Oh, that'd be just tough for Miami.
Yeah, but Vegas just doesn't look good enough right now to say they're going to 3-0 anybody for the most part. So I do think Vegas is going to win. I see it going maybe 3-2. It's just hard to point to any game modes that I love for either of these teams right now. I like the talent on Vegas a little more. And I think maybe with a week of practice with Johnny, they can figure things out. Maybe poise themselves to make like a top 6 run or something. They need a run. They need some CDL points. I think they're able to get it done against Miami at least.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that leaves us with LAT versus Boston. There's some interesting points that could be made here. Like I said, when we were talking about your bracket, like Boston does have shooters. They're not like, for how bad they really are and how bad they are at search, they're a scary team because they could just rip 3 respawns off you with their talent.
Yeah.
But I like the LA Thieves here to take out Boston. I think Thieves look too good, and I mean Thieves, shoot, if you bow out top 12 again, I guess maybe it's roster change time again for a roster that's looked so good online, and playing from LA, they've looked so good online. They've got to translate it to land now.
Yeah.
Then we got Seattle Surge versus Minnesota Rocker Brock. This is a tough one. Oh man, this is a really tough one to pick. I have such like Rocker bias because I love the Rocker as an organization. They are one of the best at reaching their local fan base. Obviously, we went to Minnesota's Major 2. In Vanguard, we went to their home series where they had matches in MW2. We overall, the two of us, and I feel like a lot of Wisconsinites that watch COD have some Rocker bias. They also housed Vivid this year, who was the only Wisconsin player. Like, I don't know. We like Minnesota. They're very good at reaching their local fan base. They really appeal to the whole franchise model and try to do activation. So we like Minnesota. I might have a little Minnesota bias, but I think they're going to win here. I think they're finally going to show some ice in the map 5. I don't know. I like the roster. I'm excited for Gunless's return to land. Do not feel confident at all picking them, though. To me, this is a very big toss-up series.
Yeah. To me, I was just picking from what I thought.
I mean, yeah, Surge probably are the favorite in this one. Obviously, they're in winner's bracket, but something's just telling me to pick Minnesota. I don't know. I feel like it's a pretty toss-up series, but I'm going to go ahead and pick Minnesota to take out the Seattle Surge. Very tough series to pick. And we got Carolina, LAG, Brock. Your LAG boys, who you have finishing top 4, I have them bowing out in dead last. This is a series that's a battle of our biases, really. And you've got your LAG bias. I've got my Carolina bias. Everybody knows I'm a big fan of Clay, Tej. I really like Gwyn. I mean, to me, Gwyn is the next up-and-coming superstar. That guy is going to be inserted onto a top team next year, in my opinion. If he's able to get out of his contract, that is, I guess he may have the typical like team option for next year where they may keep him on. But I've got Carolina taking out LAG. So one of our brackets is going to be most likely a lot better than the other because you have LAG making a top 4 run. I have them dipping out in 12th. So one of those has to be very wrong.
Yep.
I guess they could finish like top 8 and neither of us could be too bad. But I'll continue on the losers bracket here, Brock. Vegas Legion, LAT. I think LAT's going to overwhelm Vegas Legion. I do think there's a world where maybe they do look better with some practice from Johnny, and maybe that's just me kind of wishful thinking, hoping Legion can improve more because I'm really sad that they've fallen off as hard as they have. I like the players on the team a lot. I like Nero, I like Attach. I like Geo a lot. I like the players on the team, so maybe wishful thinking they can improve, but I like LAT maybe 3-1 here. Then we got the bottom half of the losers bracket here, where we got Minnesota, we've got Carolina Royal Ravens.
Ooh.
Brock, I like Carolina to make a run. Just how like you like LAG to make a run from that bottom. I like Carolina to take out Minnesota here.
I like it.
Move on to our top 6. Although if this is the matchup for top 6, I'm happy because my heart is happy with either outcome.
Yeah.
I would like to see both Minnesota and Carolina move on to top 6, and I would have no issue with either one. Although I will say for just overall viewership purpose, I would like it to be Carolina because I do think Clay, outside of OpTic, has some of the most fans and like people seem to get behind Carolina. And I feel like the crowd will really rally behind them if they're making a top 6 run. So it'll just make things a little more fun and interesting. Which brings us up to the top, Brock. Atlanta versus Subliners. Pretty impossible to pick anybody to take out Atlanta right now, huh?
Yeah, seems to be the consensus.
In a 5-game series, especially. I feel like the one way you could maybe get to Atlanta, which, by the way, as I'm saying this, I'm putting them in there right now. I feel like the one way you can maybe get to Atlanta and beat them would be maybe by, I guess, like you force them into, somebody forces them into losers and you get to play them in the finals, but you have veto advantage, maybe get the map set more in your favor. That's like the one way. Like if somebody can upset Faze in a 5-game series somehow, I feel like the most likely way to beat them is by getting your veto advantage in a 7-game series where you're able to kind of stack the maps more in your favor and then beat them on your good maps. Just have a great day. The issue with that is somebody has to knock them into losers for somebody to get the veto advantage on them in the finals.
Yeah. That's the tough part.
Which leaves me with OpTic Ultra, Brock. I think this one has map 5 written all over it, and I like OpTic to take it and create a rematch of our winners finals, OpTic versus Faze.
Mm-hmm.
Although I do think that Toronto certainly has upset potential. I feel like people in general, and that's probably because there's a lot of OpTic bias out there with so many of the people talking on Twitter and everything being OpTic fans. I feel like there is a little bit of a misconception that like OpTic is the 2 team, and to me they are the clear second best team in the game right now. But I feel like that comes with a misconception that like they're so much better than Toronto that they can't compete or like they're going to handle Toronto. That is certainly not the case. Like if OpTic sleepwalks into this series and doesn't play, with the tip top energy, like Toronto will beat them. There's no doubt about that.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
It's just going to require Envoy and Insight playing with some more consistency, especially Envoy. He's going to have to play well this tournament if Toronto want to make some noise.
Yep.
Which
can't be
brings me
pumped.
down in, what were you going to say?
He can't be putting up those 0.7 stinkers.
No doubt against teams like OpTic Faze, OpTic and Faze if they want to beat them.
Yeah.
Brock, that brings me down to the losers bracket. Toronto Ultra versus LAT. Unfortunately for your boys at LAT, I think just like you predicted in a little bit of a different way, I have LAT losing here to Ultra. You have them losing to LAG, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I've got LAT losing here to Ultra. I think that's going to shake out poorly for them. But I think it could be a close series. I see this one going 4 or 5, and I like Ultra to win it.
I like it.
Which leaves us the last matchup here in losers round 3, Subliners versus Carolina Royal Ravens. Brock, you have no idea how badly I want to pick Carolina here.
Pick them. Just do it.
I can't because I think Subliners are going to figure it out enough to beat the bottom teams.
Yeah.
So I've got them beating Toronto. And as anybody that watches this podcast or has listened to this podcast for long enough knows that hurt my soul to pick the top 4 teams to go into the top 4. I'm like the king of just picking stupid upsets, even if I don't think they're really going to happen. I just like find a way to convince myself they're going to.
Mm-hmm.
So it hurts my soul to pick Subliners. There is a gut feeling in me telling me that somebody is going to make top 4 that's not one of our top 4 teams. So it kills me that the way the bracket shook out, I just picked it like this. I will say I do think somebody of the pool of like LAT, Carolina, one of those 2 teams, I think LAT or Carolina, I think has a pretty good chance to make a top 4. I think one of them probably ends up making a top 4. I just did not have the stones to pick one of them to do it, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Which, it could be tough to pick him because he's top 4 is so much better usually than the bottom half.
Yeah, it just the bottom half has to have such a good, perfect day, and I feel like the top 4 team has to have even like not only does the other team have to be having a good day, but the top 4 team seems to have such an off day in order for that win to happen.
Yeah.
However, Brock, I think I might shock you here.
Here.
I think Subliners are going to beat Ultra.
Ooh.
I think if this matchup happens again, and I'll tell you why. I think if this matchup happens again, it's interesting. Last year, we really thought there was probably no chance because Toronto steamrolled Subliners in that winners final at Champs. Remember last year?
Yep.
Obviously, we all know what happened in the finals. New York absolutely demolished them 5-0. I don't think there's any case like that because it's not like Scrappy was talking like crazy trash to them or anything. But I don't know. When I saw that series played, obviously it's a very recent sample size. It happened the weekend before the major. But when I watched that series, like New York should have 3-0 Toronto. They blew a 230 to 160 lead on the map 1. They win the map 2. They blow a last round defense on Invasion and lose the map 4. Like they should have won 3-0. Like all very winnable maps, very winnable situations. And New York trolled in a way that we don't normally see New York troll. Like we don't see New York blowing leads that they should close out. Like 230 to 160, no matter who they're playing, is not a lead that this New York team blows.
Yeah.
They're typically such a fundamentally sound team. I just don't think that that's going to happen again. And since I saw them, like they should have beaten this Toronto team, I think they're going to get it done this time. I think they're going to beat them 3-1 and knock Toronto out top 4. Kind of a little bit of a surprise there. I feel like most people would have Toronto winning that.
Yeah, I like it. Definitely somebody can do this since they figured it out. And like you said, they should have won 3-0 this past weekend, but kind of trolled.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Brock, I'm already moving him in there on the screen, as you guys can see. I moved Faze into the final. I think they're going to beat OpTic again. I think this one's going to go map 5. I think it's going to be like map 5. Listen to this, OpTic fans, close your ears. I think OpTic's going to go up 4-2 in a map 5, and Faze is going to win it 6-4.
Okay.
I think Faze is going to rattle off 4 straight rounds down 4-2 in a map 5 in winners final to beat OpTic.
Ooh, that'd be tough for OpTic, but I like it.
It's a really specific prediction, but I don't know. And if that were to happen, that might just be like a nail in the coffin for OpTic. Like, oh my God, we had a 4-2 lead. Got to close that out in a winners final, and that gives us a chance that if we play Faze again, we get veto advantage. Doesn't happen. I think OpTic lose in a map 5 to Faze. They've been so close all year. Like, regardless of, like, some series have been blowouts, but for the most part, like, no matter what the map count is, if OpTic loses 3-0, 3-1, 3-2 to Faze, the last matchups at least have been like so close. Like, what last finals was 4-1, but it was a series that literally, like, almost every map in the finals could have gone OpTic's way.
Yeah.
Everything was so close. The hard points were like 20 or less points. Everything was just so close.
Yep. Very close.
And Brock, I'm putting him in the finals here. I'm going with the same final as you. OpTic, Faze.
Rematch.
Yeah, OpTic end up being subliners. I think that is going to be an absolute map 5 banger series. I'm really looking forward to this Sunday because I don't even care who's in it. I'm assuming at least 3 of our top 4 teams are going to be in it. I'm really just looking forward to the tournament overall. Can't wait to watch. OpTic Faze final would be electric again. Brock, I want to pick OpTic so bad for the upset because it just feels like it's time for them to finally win one. But like, I feel like a psychopath if I pick them because like at this point, if I have them in the finals and the way this bracket shakes out, that means that they lost to Faze already once, which puts their win streak or their loss streak against Faze to like 1,000,001. Like they've lost so many matches in a row to Faze. Just to be contrarian to you, I was planning on picking Faze this entire time coming to this bracket, but I'm going to say OpTic wins it in a map 7. They reverse their fate from the winners final, and OpTic takes out Faze in the final.
I like it. Someone finally takes off Faze to your bracket.
I legitimately decided that OpTic was going to win in my head 10 seconds ago because this entire time I was planning on picking Faze, but you picked Faze and you picked Thieves and you picked my bracket for me apart from LAG, and I just wanted to be different. I will say, if you had a gun to my head right now and I had to pick the major winner to live, I'm not going to lie to you, OpTic fans, I'm picking Faze. I'm picking Faze because they are, in my opinion, easily the most likely. I don't know. Something in my head's telling me to be fun, be different, pick OpTic. Probably going to regret this when OpTic loses like top 6 or something and Faze just rolls through everybody and wins the tournament. But I'll just go ahead and pick OpTic for the fun of it.
Yep.
So there it is, Brock. There's a bracket. For the most part, we were somewhat similar. I mean, we ended up with close to the same top 4. I had subliners in there. You had LAG in there instead. We had the same final, obviously different champion, maybe because I just wanted to be a little different.
Yep. I just, for whoever ends up actually in the finals, I hope it goes game 7, round 11.
Absolutely. I want to see, I don't want to see game 7s like 250, 150, 6-2, 3-1 in control. Like, I want to see banger hard points coming down to the last hill, like a contested point, 245, 245. I want to see round 11s. I want to see close control maps, even though control kind of sucks to watch in this game. Like, I want to see banger maps to force a map 7, not just like blowout back and forth.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, Brock, you got anything else before we wrap it up? We spent some good time this time predicting these brackets.
No, just excited for this major and see who comes out on top.
Yeah, it's always exciting to have the Thursday matches on. You get a slate full of matches on Thursday, a slate full on Friday, Saturday, and then you got hopefully the tip top matches on Sunday as the top 4 battle it out. So I'm very excited to watch as well. Always fun on tournament weekend. It's easily the most fun viewing experience watching people get sent home. What are the roster changes going to be if there's crazy upsets? It's always fun, especially if a losers bracket team starts making a run and all of a sudden it's like, oh, our Carolina, our LAG are one of those teams in Boston, maybe this event or something. Are they going to make it to Sunday? Fun to watch those teams go through their runs.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That's going to do it for this one. If you guys enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. If you're on the audio platforms, drop a follow, drop a 5-star review. We appreciate all the support as always. You guys have been crushing it with the support. If you guys are new here, make sure you continue to check out the channel. Drop a sub. If you guys like the new format we did, obviously, if you're still here, we appreciate you. You're a real one. Make sure to comment down below so we could praise you for watching all the way to the end. Let us know if you like the new format with this bracket kind of just being on the screen the whole time, just throwing the pictures in, advancing them as opposed to, going to the CDL website. Because lately, the CDL has been trolling us and not uploading it on time for when we record. And we're even recording later tonight. So we appreciate all the support as always. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have fun watching the major this weekend, and we will see you guys next week with reactions to the major. See you guys after this weekend.